There we go. That was very weird. Okay, there we go. the the one complaint I have about the Yeti microphone is that the on and off button is very like finicky. So, hey guys, Dante here, and welcome back to my channel, The Burgers Art, and welcome back to another Sunday night stream. Happy to have you. Much like in the past, I have my 3D printer running, but I figured, I have an extra little digital camera I could run across the room to it, so you can see, you can actually see it printing. I figured, why not? So that is a light green. It's like a grassy green, like a forest light green, PLA, because I decided to print. Excuse me, I'm sorry, just getting my keyboard in place. There we go. So I am printing some more of my dice books in a light green color. And the reason why I'm going a bit stronger, let me switch over my headphones. The reason I am going stronger with the printing, which is I'm going back to it, I have applied to several conventions for the upcoming year. I'm getting back into it. I want to get back to the convention scene nice and hard if possible. So I will be doing in February, and I know it's kind of early. I've said it before. I tried to avoid the early cons. People are still, rearing from the holiday spending, but I couldn't pass up a chance to get a new convention under the belt. So in February, there is Cosmic Con. Cosmic Con is in Queens. It's actually like in a mall. We're going to be at the center of the mall itself. So people will be walking around the vendors and Artist Alley in general, even if they're not there for the convention. So I decided to print out a few more of my books. I also plan to hopefully do a few more potion bottles, and I'll be painting my D holders. So let me do a real quick switcheroo for a minute. Let's see. Stand by. Stand by. There you go. Is that in frame? Perfect. So, for those of you who don't know, I created this guy right here, the D-Holder. The D-Holder is a play, obviously, on the Beholder. It is a Beholder-like creature with a D20 for its center eye, and the other eye stalks are, in fact, the other, various numbers. It is not exact to a Beholder. Kind of Beholder has a certain number of eye stalks. This guy has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, actually, no, he has 7. He has one in his back rolled up. You can actually see it right there. He's kind of sitting on it right there. Anyway, so I made the holders in white. And what this picture is an example of what you could do with them. You buy them, and you would spray paint them with a primer. This blue one is acrylic paint with accessories added to it, such as little snowflakes and stuff. And this one is enamel paint. And yeah, that's how I've been pitching them. That's how I've been trying to sell them, but they just won't move. I just can't seem to get them to move. Maybe I'm not at the right convention for it. A bit of a struggle sometimes. And it gets stressful because of that. So, the D holders, along with 2 other figures. These will be, once I open it up, here we go. This will be, oh, that's sideways. My grapple claw. The grapple claw is, just as it sounds like, it's a claw that is built to hold your figurine. It grapples your figurine, and it has a 1-inch base as well. So the grapple claw, the deholder, and last but not least, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Was the grapple claw, the deholder, and then there's a hand. There's a 3-fingered hand. The grapple hand. Same idea. Has a little 1-inch base in the palm. All of which are usually sold white, but I'm gonna take a small. I'm gonna take a small stock of them that I already have that are white, and I will be pre-painting them. So I'll be hopefully selling those. I don't know how many I can get through in time by February, but I want to paint a few of them like reds and blues and greens. Already pre-painted little miniature sculptures, and yeah, hope to push that. So that will be Cosmic Con in February. In June, there is Brooklyn Comic Con, which I love Brooklyn Comic Con. I love it because they've been pretty good to me so far. Are they perfect? No. They've had to bounce around a lot location-wise. Ooh, something's going on. They had to bounce around a lot location-wise. But Brooklyn Comic Con is still good, in my opinion. It's a pretty good venue. Oh, here we go. I put up my list. April, Cosmic Con. No, correction. February, Cosmic Con. April, Long Island Tabletop Convention. Hopefully, that'll be a good turnout for me. And then later on, I also applied for June, which is Brooklyn Comic Con. And I have a list of other conventions in the New York to New Jersey area that I have. I'm waiting for them to update their schedule. So yeah, that's a little announcement on that. My music stopped. My music stopped. For some reason, I know now why my music stopped. Stand by. Oh, so yeah. So I'm right now playing an old fantasy music I found on YouTube because, hey, the print's done, by the way. Because I'm not in trouble for it. I didn't get like a copyright strike. But yeah, some of the music on freaking Streamlabs, like the free music on Streamlabs, is being flagged by YouTube. So you can play them on Twitch, apparently, but on YouTube they have copyright strikes or flags, to be honest. So right now I'm just playing a generic fantasy thing. All right, let's go check that 3D print. It looks very good. This little piece is essentially the side belt that will go on the book. We have a back cover done so far. Nice back cover. Came out nice and clean. I've been struggling with some of these covers. They begin to like lift on the edges while printing. But I have a back cover and we have a belt. That is very nice. Let me turn off this light. Don't need it no more. So yeah, we got the back cover and we got a belt. That came out very nice. Hey, hey. I figure in the future, if I start doing like long form freaking 3D printing, if we're gonna have all that noise in the background, why not have the camera on it? Let me go to my nav window real quick. Okay, Digicam's not needed no more. There we go. But yeah, so those are the cons I'll be doing. Those are the cons I'm aiming for. Cosmic Con and Brooklyn Comic Con. Brooklyn Comic Con gotta get back to me with the paperwork. We'll see how that goes, and hopefully some other conventions. But yeah, this is the year of conventions. Now, let's talk about, well, streams. So for example, if you tuned in to the last stream, I was sculpting a brain, and what I did after that, in the meantime, was make this. I don't know if you can see it, right? This little piece sticking out right here, that is mold builder. I painted a latex mold builder, and I put a lot of layers onto this, and even then it tore a little bit when I pulled it off, which is kind of annoying. But the sculpture is still fine. I could probably go back and redo it, redo this entire process. But yeah, mold builder, layer upon layer of mold builder. Then what you have here is a 3-part mold, one side, and the bottom of plaster of Paris, the muzzle mold they call it, the shell that keeps it in place. Especially because I'm using expandable foam, and that stuff pushes out in all directions. So that's that. I pulled one brain out of it. Check it out. A lightweight foam brain. This is an exact copy of our sculpture from the last art stream. Are there a few extra wrinkles here and there? Yes, because when the foam expands, it pushes against itself and creates extra wrinkles. But this is going to be covered in visceral and blood and all this stuff. So that's okay. But yeah, look at that. That is what we're doing. And I attached it to a cool mechanism. There's a tendril mechanism I found out how to do from various special effects places. Essentially, it's cups with a little ball on the inside, cup, ball, etc., etc. It has a wire that's anchored to the top cup and has smaller anchors as it goes down. You should have 4 of these. I only did 3 strings, which is kind of a bad thing. Then you have a mechanism on the bottom which pulls those strings. It's like a little pyramid. What does it do? If I pull it, it causes the brain to wiggle on its spine. That's right. I'm gonna be decorating the cups to look like spinal cords. So this is a horror movie where the entire guy's face and skull all melt off, and you have this cartoonish brain that we could just wiggle in all directions. Isn't that freaking awesome? It's not perfect. It's holding together. It's just a matter of, like, once again, decorating these cups to make it look more like pseudo spinal cord. It's not gonna look exact. They're all covered in blood and gore, and we're gonna have a scene where the guy's like entire head just pops off, like the skin melts and the skull explodes, and you're gonna have this like few second scene of this brain just wiggling on stage. I am so happy with this. So happy. Why, thank you very much. In the meantime, so to once again show the detail of what we did with the brain. So we sculpt the brain. In this case right here, let's say we have a skull. This is I've shown this a few times perhaps on stream. This is a little Halloween skull that I added some clay to and sculpted. And first you paint the latex mold. You paint the mold builder on it. So this rubbery material is rubber latex. Then I gave it it's technically kind of thin, a thin shell of the plaster of Paris, or plaster wrap. Then I went ahead and if I could pull this off. Come on. There we go. Yeah, the head's kind of big. Went ahead, sprayed expandable foam on the inside. Fun fact, if you're using expandable foam and it's not really solidifying the way you want, like if you feel that the center is still gooey, which tends to happen, what I do, I poke holes straight into it, put a little bit of water in it, just like a little syringe of water, and then blow air into it, because it needs air and moisture to like expand and solidify. I'm not sure if this guy has, no, he's still a little gooey. There's still a few spots that are gooey, so I'm going to leave him in there for now, maybe give another hour or so to really like. That's the issue with expandable foam. It expands, but because it expands, it also cuts off oxygen to itself. So you have the outside, which is strong, but if you poke a hole into it, it's like nasty marshmallow. It just sticks to everything. But that's him. Don't know how well this guy came out. This is the second one I've tried. So I did 2 so far. The one you just saw. And the second one, but the second one I didn't tape it well enough, and it expanded. So it's a brain, but it's kind of like a brain that's kind of like squished out. I'm hoping. I don't know. I'm touching the very tip here. This little guy here. Still kind of soft. I'm gonna leave him in there. But you get the idea. You sculpt. You do a few layers of mold builder, and then you put some plaster of Paris on it to like hold it. That's called the mother mold. You have the mold, which is the latex. The mother mold, which is the shell. And then you could use different material. And I've been using expandable foam because it's lightweight and it fills up all the spaces. But yeah, that is something I'm having fun with. And I think that's really it for announcements today. Upcoming cons, toys, projects, etc. So I chose fantasy music. We're going to be doing something a little silly. We're going to be drawing dice as little warriors. Mainly like your typical like D&D dice set, D20s and everything. Why do you ask? If you ask at all. So I have my game of Tools and Trolls. I have my game... Oh, now the photos come in? Jeez. Here we go. I have my game of Tools and Trolls. I have my game Ascending Assassins, which is still going through some prototype stages. Altering, changing some artwork here and there. Just doing some tweaking. But I always have ideas. Like, just even general concepts of a game before I actually dive into... what am I looking for? Sorry, stand by. Sorry. I just sent myself an email with a photo and I need to put it into my reference folder before I lose it. Here we go. Paste. And we'll call that dice. We'll call it D20. There we go. As I was saying. So, I still, my mind is always like, well, what if you do this? What if you do that? And every so often, the website I use, the Game Crafter, which is a website for printing prototypes, will be like, hey, check out this new box we had. It's only this big now. It's the smallest box in the set. And I think to myself, oh man, what kind of game can I make in a small box? What kind of game can I make with this piece and that piece? And basically they revealed a like miniature, really small dice tower that you can have as your in your game set, as in your game box for whatever reason. And I was like, what if the dice tower is the main focus of the game, right? And I was like, cool. And I basically came up with an idea of like, what if the dice are your actual tokens? So each dice represents the strength of a token. So you don't just have one character, you have like a little army. So theoretically the D20 would be the king and queen of a chessboard. The D4 would be the pawns. So each character is like a little stronger than the other. And that's kind of the idea I had. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to draw a bunch of dice characters that are dressed as like little Roman soldiers and stuff. Something silly. Something fun. Just to kind of get the idea, quote unquote, out of my head on paper. Even I say quote unquote because it's really just a vague concept. It's not even like a flushed out, like really well done idea. Nope, that's the wrong one. Woo! There we go. Sorry, that was stuck there for a while. Woo. So let's start. Let's start with the D20. We're gonna make a little warrior D20. And I kind of imagine his body type being in the vein of like that I mentioned this guy before, the pig Viking from the original Power Rangers. Just imagine a D20 as the main body with little arms and legs. Then he has a giant Roman helmet on, the Roman like warrior helmet. That's kind of what I'm looking at here. So let's go with that. Let this begin. It's like scoot, scoot, scoot closer to the camera. There we go. I basically had to take my own photo of it because the way a D20 sits, essentially the way a D20 sits, when it's not in your hand, the 20, if it's sitting flat and you're looking down at it, the D20 is looking up. But if you're trying to get an angle like this, like if you're trying to put it with the D20 is kind of looking forward, it actually sits sideways. So I had to take this big foam D20 I have. It's over there. I bought it for like $2. And I had to hold it at just the right angle to kind of get what I was aiming for. Alright. I don't know how I'm doing the lines in this portion. Like the lines I should do in the ink portion. It's going to give me a headache. But what I want to do is a face. We're going to do a face. So essentially the face is where the main number is, and on them, like on their helmet or on their shield, is where we'll actually have the number written. So let's think. What kind of face? Let me just reset. So I'm just give me a second. I'm resetting my device so I can see the chat better. So I use Clip Studio. It's Clip Studio Paint. I switched over from years of using Photoshop when after a while of not having a good desktop, I was like, oh, let me reinstall my Photoshop. Yes, as in like I had like the CD. I have Photoshop 7. Told them to just to find out that like, oh yeah, you can't do that no more. Like no, you cannot own Photoshop anymore. It's strictly, you know, it's what's it called? You pay a certain amount throughout the year, and I was like, that's depressing. I have been out the loop for quite some time, I see. So then I went to Clip Studio because it was free, and now Clip Studio, I think now they have a paid version that has all the true bells and whistles. But I use the free version, and it works just fine with me. Yeah, it's weird because for years I use a laptop, and then so I had Photoshop 7. Where are you? Yeah, I had Adobe Photoshop 7. Then my friend, then we got a new laptop. My buddy was like, "Hey, I can give you the entire Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Suite, for free." So he gave it to me. So it was just on the computer. Like I have a laptop with the programs on the computer. The files are saved on the computer. I have Microsoft Office on the computer. The files are saved on the computer. And I had that for a number of years. And I don't know when the full rollover happened. I just, I didn't care. Got myself a PC, and here I am reinstalling all this stuff, and it's like, oh, so, yeah, so Microsoft Office, you can no longer own it. It's on the cloud. I'm like, so, like, what happened if it all goes down? Like, yes, you can copy the files onto your laptop, onto your desktop, but just the fact that it's not like the standard. You don't have it. It's all out there. And it works, definitely. You could be on your phone and just, like, go on the cloud and edit stuff on the go. But, I don't know, you don't own it anymore. You can't own it anymore. And that's partly because there's so many updates that owning it is like, why would you own it? The updates all obviously need to be digital. Need to be, up in, you can't really own it if, in the world of DLC and updates, you cannot truly own the program. That's kind of what it comes down to. So right now I'm just kind of doing my standard. One big eye, one squinty eye kind of look. Trying to squeeze this into... trying to squeeze this into the D20. Yeah, so the idea I had is like, okay, so the game crafter has now created these little tiny dice towers that you can have in your board game. So like, what if that's the whole idea? What if the game is that your dice, your soldiers are trying to climb the tower, like gimmick wise, like the backstory, the lore of the game. They're trying to climb the tower, and every time they do, they get expelled by the guy in charge. So everyone has a group of dice. Each dice represents the strength of that character from 1 to 4, from 1 to 20, and you roll it, and no matter what, your character always gets ejected. In other words, you're dropping it through the dice tower, and like maybe the mechanic deals with like the points they have left over when they roll out, and that it's kind of like a strategy game in terms of like having certain soldiers do certain things, but the damage they receive is random based on how you drop it through the dice tower. That's kind of the idea I had in mind. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's kind of the idea I had. Just with like, what if the dice tower was an entire mechanic? And it's a dice tower and a group of dice, and that's it. That's the entire game. Just a weird idea. Definitely a back burner idea. I have other games I'm also working on. But I figured, why not draw the little characters? Like, why not draw the box art while we're at it? Pretty much, right? I'm getting like that weird like Ren and Stimpy vibe. You know, Ren and Stimpy, there was always like that one weirdly angry like adult figure in every episode. I found out later on through a semi documentary that that was kind of because the creator had like daddy issues. That's why like every adult figure was just strangely angry for no reason, just always like veins popping out of their head. Bit of a sad story behind that, but yeah, gotta get that butt chin. Yeah, critical fails, critical success, like things like that. Once again, this is just like a vague thing going through in my head. Because the Game Crafter, to kind of promote people to make an account and to make games and to like sell games, they'll have contests. So the Game Crafter website will be like, oh, this month's contest is mini armies, right? And the theme, in other words, the theme would be like, go into the Game Crafter shop and use these particular figurines to make an army-based game. However, and then they'll list a whole bunch of like rules, like you only have 4 characters, so your army of 4. Sometimes they'll have like make a game that's super small, like fits in a small box. Ascending Assassins was a game I designed for their tin game, but it was they made a little mint tin, and they were like, hey, here's a contest. Can you make a game that fits only in this mint tin? And some people made some really cool stuff out of it. And the question is, should I just do like legs sticking out of it, like that banana, like the banana kid from World of Gumball, just simple stick figures, or should I try to actually design like he's wearing pants or something like that? How much of the dice should be covered in a helmet? Like, what kind of... Should it be a big Roman helmet that covers most of the head? If that's the case, where do the hands come out? So these are the little things I have to think about now. When doing, like... When adding human characteristics to an object, you know, when you anthropomorphize. So, the face is strictly on the D20, which gives a lot of open space to everywhere else. So I could do the arm here, which makes sense. Then I could probably try to do the helmet like sitting on top of him in some way. We'll figure that out. Yeah, I was also thinking about that too. Maybe just, you know, give him the quote-unquote stick figure arms and legs, and that they're just kind of coming out of him, but like give him boots and stuff. So like they have boots and gloves, like on the legs and arms, but the legs and arms are just sticking out from the body itself. I'm also not sure, like, I have basic mental idea. I have basic ideas of like maybe, like I said, maybe this guy should have a big Roman helmet on his head, you know, with the fin and everything. I'm not really aiming for like a particular cultural design. There we go. That's better. Here's his arm back. Trying to get a good angle on this. Yeah. Let's redo that arm. Being very simplistic with this right now. The face was the main thing. I'm just trying to get an idea of where everything else sits. Yeah, okay. Also, that's not a knife, that's a spoon. Oh, I see you've played Knifey Spoon before. Freaking... The Simpsons are at their best when they write, like, just bizarre dialogue. When they're not trying to make a joke necessarily, or like a cutaway gag, like some shows. But when they just straight up are like what's the? It's a character joke. Like what would the character say in this scene? Like I remember Seymour Skinner. One of the most famous things he did was like, "Am I really out of touch? No, it's the children. The children are out of touch." Okay, let's fix this knife up a bit. Yeah, I want to get like the body position down, and then we'll go back, and then we'll think of like maybe adding some bits of armor, some kind of like little details here and there. Nothing crazy. We're just kind of doing like semi-box art right now. So we are going to simplify this in that these are three-fingered people. I usually don't do three-fingered, kind of cartoony-looking people, but we are doing three-fingered people for now. Okay. So I am happy with the positioning. I am happy with like the general shape. It's also, I don't want to mess it up. We're going to use a different color. Let me go to Google real quick and look up some images of like helmets and stuff. It's something we could kind of simplify. We're not going to do the typical woman with the nose piece because I don't want to cover his face. But I am imagining the flaps. I see a lot of nice images like the funny little flaps on the side. Why did you do that, Google? There you go. Weird. Okay. No. See, some Roman helmets, I'm going to Google, so I'm trying to find ones that like actually based on them. That the fin is actually with the head, like it curves with the helmet. On other ones, the fin is actually on top of that, like on a little spike, and then it curves. But I feel that does take up too much freaking space. So we're gonna do it literally on the helmet itself, like that. There we go. And for accuracy, that's a 10 there. I'm basing this accuracy off of, like I say, a foam toy I have. Whether or not all D20s are exactly to that, I don't know. So I have like a I know like D4s vary on like how they're made. Sometimes the way to read it is like the number that's in the top, and it's just the way it's lined up is always a little different on a D4. So we'll see about that. All right. Let me merge these two color layers together. So I'm going to jump to the inking because I just want to get the face and the helmet going, and then during the inking, I'll work the detail with the rest of the body. The arms and legs, that is. Yeah, I think I had to because there's so much going on him. You wouldn't be able to tell exactly if he's a D20, especially because his face is taking up the 20. So I want to do it that. So like, if we go make it tonight into doing the D4, same idea. Face is gonna take that up. I might give this little guy a shield, make him really nervous looking, and on his shield we'll probably say the number 4 on it. If we get to him. But right now, let's do a little bit of inking. Let's start getting this guy cleaned up. And in fact, save as. We're gonna save as. Save as. No, save as. Don't let my lisp throw you off, people, please. card game. We are making a brand new folder. We're going to call this Tower for now. Here's going to go into the Tower. This is D20. Save. All right. That's not right. There we go. He got them fooly cooly eyebrows. I'm not sure how many. I'm not sure how many people get that reference. I still don't know. Did the new series come out? COVID, like, man, COVID messed up so many like upcoming series. There was like there was gonna be an anime series based off of Spiral. Like, if you want some nightmare fuel, that was gonna be huge, especially because like to really capture like the horror of that manga, you really gotta get the art style right. And yeah, COVID showed up, and I don't know what happened with that. Yeah, Fooly Cooly was another one where I'm like, oh, they're making a continuation and a sequel? No, a continuation and a remake? Or like a sequel in itself, like it wasn't going to be necessarily connected to the original, but in the same universe, I think. And I don't know what happened with that. No one rolls like a stun. Backstabs like a stun. No one loots all the bodies and runs like a stun. I'm so sorry. A Gundam series. Okay, so personally, I don't follow Gundam that much. Not because it's bad. I mean, there's so many Gundam series out there. You could pick which ones you think are better than others. You could pick which ones you think are more preachy and which ones handle it much more subtle. And by it, I mean war and violence and hatred and like just and like camaraderie in battle versus like following blindly into battle. Like Gundam as a whole is a very interesting series. I just growing up, I couldn't really get into it because it just wasn't my thing. Like it was a bit too dark and a bit too serious for my taste. Even when it was censored originally when it first came out, I think Gundam Wing was like the first one that the US really got, and Gundam Wing is like one of the like most popular ones because of that. All the main characters in Gundam Wing are like these young peppy boys. But in other Gundam series, there's like one. I'm sure there's been more than one Gundam series where it doesn't even revolve around the Gundam. It just kind of revolves around the other soldiers who don't have access to a Gundam. I think there was like one series that was like that at least, where it was like the grunt people, and it is a war story. And sometimes it's not my thing. I like drama, but I can only handle so much drama. And in animation, that's not really my thing, unless it's mixed with like a little bit of levity. With that said, and people are gonna hate me for this, I freaking thought G Gundam was hysterical. With all its really bad racial stereotypes. But I freaking thought G Gundam was so funny. But the one thing I thought G Gundam did was like, that was amazing, was the exosuit setup. Yeah, I know it's really cool sitting in the pilot seat, seeing all the details where they're like flipping switches and like, it's like an actual, like, you could believe it's an actual military machine. But despite the amount of suspension of disbelief I give many shows, I just can never get my head wrapped around the idea of how are you controlling that Gundam? Like, how much of it is you, and how much of it is like pre-programmed, like, it walks sideways, it dodges sideways. I say that knowing full well that playing a video game, you could do all of that with a simple remote. But I did like the idea of the exosuit kind of like bodysuit, and it follows your movement Gundam, which we of course got later on with things like Pacific Rim, Symbiotic Titan, to a certain extent. Symbiotic Titan was more in their minds, but still the idea of you move, it moves, which I thought was also in G Gundam. Granted, it was all very silly, very lighthearted, but I enjoyed it because of that. So to make a Gundam, let me see, Dragon, Shining Finger. No, it's true. They were trying to have fun with the format. They were definitely trying to have fun with the format. And the format is more of like, the Gundam itself is a super weapon among other weapons. And there's some dark Gundam stories out there. Like, I've seen a few of my friends have been like, oh, in this story of Gundam, like, this guy loses his arms and legs, and his girlfriend goes crazy because she watches her friends die in front of her. And it's like, and in the end, he's like, in the end, she's catatonic, and he has like no arms and legs because the military told him he had to have no arms and legs to pilot the Gundam better. Like, it just ends really bad. But yeah, I appreciate them for doing something different. And with all that said, what is Netflix gonna do? Are they gonna make are they gonna like do what like the older Gundams did, where they're gonna make a really cool action sequence with really cool fighting scenes in space with robots, but still bring up the horror of war? Because if they did that, I would respect them for that, because you're writing a war story that has to also deal with cool robots in space, which can't be easy, but Gundam has done it. And with that being said, they have plenty of material to feed off of. They don't have to work from scratch. They either adapt something or do to take the Marvel approach, where like where they basically took hints from other famous stories. You know, what was it? Civil War wasn't really based off of the Civil War comic. It was, it was like 3 different storylines all at once, and people enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. So you know, it all depends on like how they approach the series. Teen drama with mechs. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anime's full of those, so you can't go wrong. Anime is completely full of teen dramas with mechs. But is that really Gundam? I don't think that's really what you would consider Gundam. Then again, teen drama is like such a played out idea. Like we all seen movies where you could tell they just took there is an I don't know if the term is expression or a theory, but they call it like the idea is like there's three types of scripts in Hollywood. And lazy Hollywood writers just take one of the scripts and then like try to like switch out elements to make it something else. Perfect example. You take a teen drama script and then put Dragon Ball Z into it. And that's how you got Dragon Ball Z Evolution. Like the trailer alone for it, I was like, oh, this is just a teen drama. It's a modern day teen drama. It has nothing to do with the actual source material. Or the fish out of water. You know, like there were 3 Smurf movies. One was completely computerized and took place in the universe of Smurfs, right? Like in the medieval world and stuff. Like like it or not, that's what they did. But the first 2 that came out were like, okay, we're going to make these super realistic CGI Smurfs. We're going to establish they come from a medieval world where there's wizards and dragons and all that, and then stick them in New York City. That's it. They're in New York City, and that was it. The movie wasn't horrible, but that's an example of like the fish out of water. Sonic the Hedgehog, they did the same thing, but they succeeded apparently. I didn't see the movie. I hear that the movie had enough heart. Like Sonic's character was fun enough and had enough heart where like it managed to like escape that kind of like the pitfall of that setup, which is good. But man, it got close, dude. I'm not even talking about the way they designed Sonic. Just like I'm not even talking about the original design they took. I'm talking about like it got close. It could have just been a simple fish out of water, and the entire story could have been just about the human he hung out with, and not actual Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, don't be lazy. Stop using these freaking like pre-made scripts, like a freaking AI or something, and just write an original story. Or not even original, just write a story that's like close to the actual premise. What's so scary about that, man? Come on. Seriously? Okay, I'm sorry. I keep hearing different like stories. Like, it's one of those things where it's like people. It's a mix between people hoping and people just making up jokes, and they're like you know, like when they say who's voicing the character. I've heard like 3 different people voicing the characters. I don't know. Jeff Bennetto's weird, man. Like, I say he's weird only because like half the properties he's been doing lately have just not been doing good, man. I don't know. I'm not gonna say he's a bad actor, and I can't really say, to be honest. Like, I don't really follow him that much, but just like, I guess we'll see. I guess we will see. It's Morbin time. Jared Leto. It's Morbin time. That doesn't look right to me. Something looks off. That looks a little off to me. We'll go back to it in a bit. That back foot looks a little off to me. I mean, that's always the case. That's always the case. Like, they don't want to take a risk. You know, I mean, that's kind of my complaint right now with the MCU. Like, I've kind of fallen off the boat with the MCU because after a while, a lot of the movies just became the same. In terms of tone. In terms of... It just... You have all these characters. Like, the only one I think that kind of broke the tone was the Spider-Man trilogy. Which I didn't see the last one. And everyone's like, if you're a fan of Spider-Man, you're going to freaking love it. I didn't see the last one, though. But I've seen plenty of clips, so I know, like... I know people are like... I know what happens. I know what happens in it, you know? But yeah, the Spider-Man one I liked, because you have that legitimate spoilers in the second one. If you know the scene I'm talking about, it's after after the train scene. It's him in a field of tulips. If you know the exact scene, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's a scene when he's in a field of tulips, and kudos to the actor. He is legitimately terrified of, like, who can he trust? Like, someone comes to help him, and he's like literally afraid that the person might not be the real person. And that's some good acting credit right there, because I felt that. I was like, oh geez, this poor kid, Spider-Man. This poor kid's freaking like traumatized, man. And like the Spider-Man movies, yeah, I like them. I think they do a good job of kind of slightly breaking the tone. It's the tone that they break. Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. It could, yeah, sure, it's lightweight. It's light comedy at times, but then it also still has just enough drama. And it knows when to freaking push it. The whole scene where Evil in the second movie, spoilers, when Evil just casually lets it slip that he's the reason Peter Quill's mother died, and like without, there's no joke, there's no drop off. It just, he says it, the camera dolly zooms, and suddenly bam, 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 like you just have this scene of this him getting chunks of himself blown away by Peter. And I love that by Star-Lord. He just like instantly just unloads on him. And like that kind of like, that's a serious scene. You need to have that serious scene. So those are movies that like, that manage to like get away from the mold that Disney has been doing with these movies. And I like that. Yeah, that back foot looks a little weird. Because I have the toe coming outward. That's the issue. It should just be... I should just make it straightforward. Like... Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. So I don't, like I said, I don't usually do the whole 3-finger thing, right? Because, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So like one of my favorite artists, the artist behind Irma, the comic Irma, about the little girl who's essentially, she's essentially the girl from The Ring, or rather, she is a Japanese ghost, but obviously inspired by The Ring. Like his art style, everyone got 3 fingers. That's it. Which is weird when he gives them like long fingers too, like some of the women have long slender fingers. So it kind of throws me off at times. But you know, this is art style, and I've praised him for his black and white rendering and his black and white rendering with large crowds. I love his art, his art style. The comic Irma, definitely check it out. But I remember watching recently. See, Gravity Falls still has a huge fan base, and it keeps growing because people are now, much like myself, discovering it way after the series ended, and everyone's like, how did no one tell me about this? And it's kind of crazy how that is. So I'm watching people doing like reaction videos to the show now, and one of which is her name is Wee Lass. Well, she calls herself Wee Lass. And she's watching that along with a few other series. And she's someone who you can tell she's someone who like loves a good mystery. And she, funny enough, overthinks certain things. Like because of Gravity Falls, because she started watching Gravity Falls, now whenever she watches or reacts, quote unquote, reacts to other cartoons, she tries to overanalyze them, much like Gravity Falls. And one of the major mysteries in Gravity Falls is the book that has 6 fingers on it. It is the main plot point of the story. And if you watch the story, all the adults have 5 fingers. So you're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, it's a world where like a 6-finger book would be weird. But because of artistic style, the main characters only have 3 fingers. The main characters are meant to be like preteens. So like, is this weird disconnect between like the mystery of the 6-fingered book when you realize that like half the main characters don't even have 5 fingers? They have the 3 finger. They have the 4 fingers. They have the 3 fingers and a thumb. And it's just kind of funny when I look at that. Just watching someone trying to like analyze it and then just struggle because she's not sure like what's real anymore. No, I have not seen a Mario Bros. Movie. So from what I hear, Sonic the Hedgehog was a fun movie. Like you said, charming. Made better by the fact that they redid all of the designs for Sonic. There's a whole story behind the studio behind that. Those poor guys. So I heard Sonic was a good movie. I heard people enjoyed Sonic 2 with Knuckles. And I heard Mario was good. People were like, Mario isn't like spectacular end of the world. Like, amazing, they got it perfect. It's chef kiss. No. But it was a fun Mario movie. Just safe enough but it wouldn't upset anyone. And I think that's cool. I think that's really good. Why do the curves always come out a little bit smaller? To quote a YouTuber, no, to quote a tweet I once saw it. Regretfully, I don't know I can't remember who tweeted it. I don't know. Maybe just make it animated, right? Someone online was like, "Yo, make it animated." And it is a Japanese property. You know they have the money for it. Studio Ghibli, not necessarily the studio, but I've seen some beautiful artwork. A lot of it inspired by the recent game, Skyward. Is it not Skyward Sword? That's the older one. The last two Zelda games. I forget the name of them now. But like in that vein, where like you could design, Zelda as the protagonist walking around with her short hair. You could design Link shirtless walking around through the woods, whatever. I've seen some beautiful artwork inspired by that, of just like them surrounded by nature. Just them entering the cave with grass and vines hanging from the walls. And people were like, yeah, why not just like animate it and go for like a Studio Ghibli kind of feel? Like keep like that keep that Lord of the Rings, big world, little man trying to explore the world feel. And the best way to do that is through the nature and the mountains and the traveling. Because there's so many Zelda games, there's so many variations of them, and there's so many different types. But at its core, from what I feel, and I'm a casual Zelda player, Zelda is a story about this nobody who goes on this massive quest against all odds to save this one person. It is the Lord of the Rings, little person from little town traveling out into the world. Sometimes in some games, he is her bodyguard. In some games, he's just a regular kid who gets, stuck with it. But it's still like, dude, the entire series' main point begins. The main plot points that start off the entire series is you are a random kid, you walk into a cave, and you meet a freaking wizard who's like, you look interesting. Take this sword. It's dangerous to go alone. And the guy just bounces. Like, if that's not like a call to adventure from like, the hero's journey call to adventure, I don't know what is. Just, I don't know, man. I've always felt it should be like, it's grandiose in scale, but the main character shouldn't be a badass. And I think a live action could do that, but man, if it was animated in like a Ghibli style, or even computer animated, but obviously not as bright and colorful as Mario, but a little bit more reserved. Because Mario is like, floating blocks and mushroom people. Zelda is about freaking wild beasts in the woods trying to kill you. It's a different tone. It's the tone that's different. I've seen the trailers for that. And, yeah, perfect example. It's funny because one of my coworkers and I were talking about that. One of my other coworkers and I were talking about it's the Boy and Heron. It's what's the actual title of it? Yeah, Boy and Heron, and we were discussing like, wait, the main character's a boy? That's new. Ghibli-san, you made a boy the main character? Is something over? Are you okay, Ghibli-san? So, I don't know. Okay, so I don't know about Zelda being aware of it because I haven't played the new game, but for a long time I've heard that there's actually there's a pseudo official timeline that was released by Nintendo, and there's been variations of it every time they add a new game, but essentially when they introduced the story about the falling moon, the one that actually does cause like the game in which you actually do reset time, when that was introduced as an idea, that's what created the timeline idea. That there's like 3 timelines. There's like the absolute, like the worst timeline, the hero timeline, and like a neutral timeline. And all the games fit somewhere in there. And I think the story is like the very first Zelda game is not the first cycle. It is like the 3rd cycle in the timeline, and it's actually considered a neutral cycle, I think. Whatever it is, it's not the first cycle. It's not like the games themselves aren't even chronologically correct. It's like you can actually find a chart online. And what's crazy is they've posted it like in Nintendo Magazine. So some people took it as like the truth, but you know, it give or take. But yeah, it's they're always destined to meet. Whether or not Zelda knows is a really interesting kind of concept. So I still have saved in my files my Zelda fanfic. One of a billion that are on the internet, of course. I never actually posted it. It was more of a test. I wanted to see if I could create a live action Zelda storyline. And the main... Oh, that's the wrong tool. What I did was essentially take influence from Lord of the Rings and Princess Bride. And I wanted to create kind of like... I mean, if you think... I mean, given the fact that, like, apparently they keep repeating the timeline, my story could be just as valid as anyone else's, to be honest. But I still have the script. I'm still kind of proud of it. It's not complete. It has, like, all the main anchor points of, like, the bullet points of what needs to happen. And then it's a matter of me just connecting, like, point A to point B. And in that one, like I said, I took influence from Lord of the Rings, in the scale of like just some punk kid with a good heart though. Like he's a bit of a jackass, but he has a good heart. Who goes in this journey to save someone he cares for. That is a little bit of the Princess Bride influence. The As You Wish character, Wesley. And then once you have the As You Wish kind of idea. Ah, frick! I moved it. Hold on. So that was that, and I started writing a story. And the story was more for me in terms of answering questions. Like we know now because of the newer games that he's the chosen one. That there's like this whole backstory about like a hero who once lived and once died, and etc. etc. But I before they really introduced that solid concept of him, being reborn or whatever like that, my story was more like he is literally just some farm kid. He is some farm kid, and on the neighboring farm is Zelda. They're both just commoners, but kind of in the vein of the rebirth. The concept I had was that the Triforce chooses, and Triforce meaning all three, choose a person to rule the land. Like it travels. So when the king dies, at the start of, as a code opening to my story, that essence flies upward and disappears, into the sky. And through the storyline, we find out that Zelda is supposed to be the one to carry the Triforce, which is why she gets kidnapped by Ganon, who wants to suck it out of her and basically make himself all powerful. That was the idea I had, and I that was the base idea. And then I started introducing, is a Triforce actually made of 3 pieces? If so, what happens to those 3 pieces? And etc. etc. Like I started introducing the actual plots from the game. And yeah, I'm actually quite proud of the way it came out. I just never got a chance to like finish it and post it. Why is Link the only person who goes after her? If she's so, like, in the new game it makes sense, because it's like there was a calamity, and the kingdoms are all scattered, and etc. etc. But in all the other games, why is he the only one who goes after her? Like, that was kind of the questions I wanted to ask. And the way I answered it for myself is that no one knows that she's been kidnapped. Like, that's the way I introduced it. She goes from a peasant who finds out that she's supposedly going to be this leader of, like, her people, which, trust me, she doesn't take well. She's like, excuse me? But when she gets kidnapped, no one knows about it except him. So he has to rush out because no one knows that the Triforce isn't passed through lineage. The kingdom thinks the king's son is going to show up one day and he's going to be owner of the Triforce. They have no idea that she's out there, and that she's the one who actually has it, and that they need to go save her. And that's kind of how I approached the idea. It's the there is no time to explain, follow me kind of setup. And I did base linked a little bit off of his Nintendo days, his Nintendo Power days. Why does that look so weird? Well, it is right. It's just the angle of it. The angle of that 14 looks so jacked up here. Nah. Yeah, I made him a bit of an asshole. He's an asshole, but a good guy. That's the way I thought about like making Link. Excuse me, princess. Maybe one day I'll post snippets of it. Alright. Oh, forgot the rest of the 3. He's definitely gonna have one of those gruff sounding voices. Into battle, men! It's like whenever they do a character to like depict Jack the King Kirby, he's always like really freaking gruff. What's that famous guy? Daniel Turpin. That's it. Daniel Turpin. From the Superman cartoon. They gave him Jack Kirby's eyebrows. Even though his original design looked nothing like that. So they took Daniel Turpin, gave him Jack Kirby's eyebrows, and then just made Turpin the freaking coolest badass in that cartoon. Oh, of course I forgot something really important. Windwalker, yeah. Those are schmucks. Yeah, I like I said, I want to lean towards the Princess Bride idea because they are in love, but they're young. Like the script I wrote was like he's like 16, she's like 15, so it's young love, but it's honest love. Like he owns the farm next to them. I drop hints as to why he owns an entire farm, even though he's just a kid. I drop hints into like a sickness that actually hit the land years before, which is why in the story I wrote Zelda's father's not there. Her father and her mother have died. Her mother died when she was young. Her father died when the sickness came, and Link's parents died when the sickness came. It was like this thing that swept the land, and the king of Hyrule, with the power of wisdom, because there's power, wisdom, and courage, I think, right? With wisdom, saved his people, which sets up like all these like I like to put a lot of like set up and payoff on little things they say to each other. So Link owns a farm next door to hers, but she has like her aunt and the entire farm like crew. It's just him, like this one guy on the farm, and they're just like neighbors who've known each other for years, and there's no one else around for miles. So of course they're gonna fall in love with each other. But he lets her go when the king's secret men show up. When I call him the Red Guard. I call him the Red something. When their purpose is to like secretly watch the Triforce pass from one person to the other. And when the king died, they were at his side, and the king's like, you know what you must do. The king dies. Here's the code opening. The king dies, and they go, sure. Then we switch to Link and Zelda. We get like a chapter more or less of Link and Zelda when the guys show up and tell Zelda, yeah, by the way, the Triforce is not a lineage. It moves from person to person. You've been chosen. You are now going to be queen. But we have to make the people believe you are the daughter of the previous king. That's like the lie they tell. That it's passed through the blood. And the only person who knows the truth is Ganon, which is why Ganon kidnapped Zelda. That's why they keep it secret, because if it does pass from anyone to anyone, there's going to be people out there trying to steal it, if they know how to. And that's the setup of the story. And Link lets her go. Like, it is, I tried to write the best I could for a heartbreak scene. I don't do romance, but I try to write a scene where, like, essentially he lets her go because he's like, I'm just a farm kid. You're like destined to rule the kingdom. And she kind of hates him for saying that, but it is true. So he lets her go. And after he lets her go, she gets kidnapped. But he's the only one who finds out about it. Or rather, he's the only one close enough to do anything about it. Because it's a secret. No one knows this person is meant to rule the kingdom next in line. So he goes off on his journey, and that's the setup for my story. I know, I'm telling you about my fanfic. Not the most classic thing to do in a stream. But it's something I'm more happy about, like, the story itself rather than it being a fanfic of something. I'm actually happy with the setup I did with it. One day I will go back to it and, you know, clean it up and maybe release it somewhere. Thank you, Black. Thank you very much. Gave him gloves. He has stitches on that one. Let's put some stitches on this one. Alright. Bloop. Oh, that's why I got confused. I drew it on the metal plate. It shouldn't be on the metal plate. That's why that's why my eye was like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. There we go. Alright, file save. You know what, yeah, let's resize this. Canvas, that is. Nope, that's not at all what I meant to do. Edit. Canvas size. There we go. Yeah, let's resize it. Back to the way it was before, and we are going to... Can we squeeze a little tiny a tiny D4 into all this? Let's see. Control scale. That about right? Yeah, D4s are big enough. It's about the size of a D20 diameter. Okay. You can even see the watermark where I got the picture from. It's a D4. Like, I'm not copyright infringing anything. It's a freaking D4 for God's sake. All right. Let's see if we can at least get a sketch in for this. Okay, he's gonna be a nervous boy. He's gonna. So, something like. Yeah, like that. Okay. Being so tiny. He's like the squire of the group. Little guy. Does not want to be there. That's it. Thank you. Pudgy Pig Monster. That's exactly what I'm... That was what's in the back of my head. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Yeah, I do want to revisit it. It's not a... It was a writing exercise. And the passion that went behind it is to see whether or not I could make the story. Because I am a casual, very casual Zelda fan. So I basically just started looking at things from the different Zelda games that people really liked, rather than try to adapt one game. I was trying to see like what was the vibe. So yeah, I am kind of excited to go back to it because it's a challenge. It's a nice challenge in writing for me. Maybe I'll go back to it. But yes, the piggy pud. You know, freaking where is he? Where is he? Give me a second. Power Ranger Pig. They released a toy about areas. They literally just like released a toy about him. Let me back up for a minute. Bam! There he is. That's pretty much the vibe I was going for. That's pretty much the exact vibe I was going for. There's no way around it. It's just a head with it's a dice. So I could have like made an entire drawing of a guy with a dice for a head, but that's not as fun. It's kind of meant to have the same vibe as like the Eminem character. Like the body is the head, with like the arm sticking out. So yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. By the way, this is a really cool figurine. I've seen this in stores. Fully articulated. Anyway, yeah, that's Pig Monster. That's exactly. Thank you. I just couldn't place like. I just had to type in Power Ranger Pig, and that was like literally the first thing that came up on Google. Where were we? There we go. Should I have him like he looks sad here? Should I have him more like how you do sad but also like surprised? Nope. Yeah, you could do this. the downward eyebrows and still like give him. He does not want to be here. He's like, oh no, this isn't what I signed up for. Nah. No, not gonna work. I like that. I like that. Storming towers is just not how he rolls. I like that. I might have to use that on the box art. I might just have to use that on the box art. Thank you very much. I like that. I'm trying to like center this freaking, like where his feet sit. It'll probably be like right about there. Once again, we'll do better work with the designing of the feet. Just want to get them like positioned correctly. Something like this. Sorry, just when I the fact that I could see it clearly now, I was like, oh jeez. That's good. That is good. Oh my god, should I give him like a little hat? Should I give him like a little gnome pointed hat? Oh my god, yes. She knitted it herself. She goes, it's like when they mean well, but it's like when they mean well, but it just works against you, but you can't say it otherwise. She's like, I made it a vibrant color, that way they can see you on the battlefield. He's like, thanks, Grandma. Right, let's ink this guy up, and then I guess we'll call it a night after that. Okay, let's do a better job of shaping this shield. I just realized, talking about Zelda, I gave him the pointed shield and the freaking little pointed hat. Subconscious stuff goes on around here. To be honest, the Zelda story, the whole thing started as a trailer concept for live action. Cause I wrote the Zelda story in the visions that it would be a live action. Like, what can you get pulled off with? What can you not? I even have a very I have it's in a lot of it's actually in storyboard. I did one for Mario, which is funny because the Mario movie already came out, so whatever. But I did a lot. I had an idea of like, how would you do a live action Mario? You know, don't. I always say never explain away the magic. If something's magical, let it be magical in the storyline. It's that's why people are there to see it. Could you imagine Lord of the Rings if they were like, oh well, Gandalf's magic is actually part of an alien species? No one wants to freaking see that, for God's sake. So I did the Zelda storyline with the idea that it would be like if it was shot live action, what would it look like? And that's where I wrote that. They never explain away the magic. Like, a good fantasy story explains how things work, but allows for the suspension of disbelief. Freaking Harry Potter has tons of rules regarding how the wands work, how like no one could just take a wand from someone, how the wands themselves have like items inside of them, like each wand has an item, but the wand kind of reaches out and chooses its original owner, and that's explanation, but it's not explaining the magic away, it's explaining the magic system. Which is how you should approach stories, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Art is about hiding your influences. I do like that quote. That's nice. Go forth and poke your enemies. I think I probably mentioned in a previous stream that was more about like D&D stuff. There's this comic, I gotta find it. If anyone out there knows it, please let me know. But there's this really good comic about making a joke character. Like, you make a joke character. It says day one of your joke character, and it's like this clown, that has a bag of holding, so he has like 500 cream pies in it, and he's like, and it's just like, just this really silly character. But then the comic says like day 27 of your joke character, like campaign 27 of your joke character, and it's the same character. It's a clown, but like now he's bare chested and covered in scars with like he's designed like a D&D character, but he has clown makeup, and it's just like, it's like he's holding open the door as like the castle collapses, and like he's trying to save the princess. Like it goes from a joke character to being like a legit like I will sacrifice myself for the party, get the princess to safety kind of scene. It's that freaking scene from Street Fighter with Zangief, quickly this way, and I think the best line is like, as he's holding the, if I remember correctly, he's holding the door, and he tells everyone to get like the princess to safety or something, and one of the characters tries to tell him that she loves him, and he goes, and like he basically interrupts her and says, "I know, I've always known," and like it's this like heartfelt scene with a joke character, and I'm only mentioning that because I'm looking at this dude right here, and like you start the campaign as this, and by the end he ends up being like the hero of the actual story, and that's why I love D&D, because you can do that. You can slowly like do a slow burn with your character. I gotta find that comic. It kind of encompasses like what what you don't expect or do expect when you play certain tabletop games, especially with just the right crowd. If you get the right people and really enjoy yourself, it's great. The bad thing is the way I drew it, like I'm not drawing the numbers on the face, but the way I drew it, it's like you don't see any of the numbers. That's okay. Okay, wait, get away. There we go. And I don't like the bare hand. I'm gonna give him some like bandages or something. Yeah. All right. Let's make sure we label that layer as D4. Okay, and make sure we hit save. All right, guys. Let's okay, first off, there are boards. There's our General D20 and Grunt D4. I'm happy I finally got that out of my system. I have other game designs to work on that are much more developed in terms of like how the game's gonna work, the gameplay. So I probably won't return to this for a while, but I am happy with it. Let me see. Yeah, you can build some great memories with the way. Yeah, I mean, when I played D&D for the first time, I was a goofball. I stepped on people's toes, and you know, looking back at it, I was a bit of an asshole doing that, not realizing I was just getting too excited. And you know, it happens. There's always that weird connection between like there's a player and there's a character. They should be separate, but sometimes people play themselves too much. You know how it is. They personal fantasy gets in the way of just having fun. It's a balance. You got to find the right crowd. But remember, everyone's there to have fun. You are not the main character. You are there to be immersed in an imaginary world with everyone else. That's something I learned later on, which is why I definitely want to get back into it. So these guys are there. Let me switch over if I can see. That's the wrong button. Okay. While we're waiting, might as well end the stream with a little bit of this. Let me see. Are you still squishy? Nope. It looks okay. I'm just checking. I'm pulling and checking inside to see if there's any of that, like I said, that kind of marshmallowy looking. No, I think we're good. Ooh, peel the face back. Peel that face back. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. And carefully pull out the eye sockets. Put this back the way it should. Flip. Ta-da! One foam skull. I'm giving it a light squeeze. I can still feel it's a little soft on the inside. That's okay. Let it sit for like a few days, and it'll eventually that air will circulate on the inside and finally solidify. But that is the skull, right? Skull's good to go. Let's go for the brain. Let's see. Maybe I should switch to my paper. Give me a second, guys. No. I'm going to do. We're going to expand just a little bit. Hi. I have a feeling this is not fully solidified. Like I'm giving it a squeeze here. I don't know what the inside looks like. I have no idea. If it fails, it fails. I can always like peel, if I literally begin to peel, and it ends up being too gooey on the inside, I let it sit for a little bit longer. And if it still doesn't solidify after a while, I'll just have to rip out what I can and turn the mold inside out. Let it fully, like, let it get plenty of air, and just like, because you can't really clean it. You can't clean it when it's like all squishy and mold and like that. You have to like let it harden and then peel it off. Bear with me. There we go. Oh. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I like I said, I have a whole bag full of little skulls. So when I do like maquettes, when I do small sculptures, like little heads, or if I'm doing like small puppets, I just use those as the understructure. I do have a large Halloween head, about the size of like a teenager. It's not really my size. It's like a little bit smaller. That I'm thinking of doing the same thing. I probably won't use Mold Builder because that would take forever doing layers and layers and layers of Mold Builder. I might use more of an epoxy type of one. I forget what it's called. Smooth On. The company Smooth On makes one that's really good. But see, you see here, it pushed. It pushed against it, which means it is expanding, which is good. As I was saying, there's one that is it's the same idea. You paint it on. It's silicone, so it's like easy release material. Where the hell is the end of you? Even when you start dragging your nail across the tape to find the end of it, where the hell is the end of your tape? Is that you? There you are. Aha. Okay. So I put little bumps here, that way it will act as like legs, but it makes it look like a camel. Okay. Bottom comes up first. Little squeeze, little squeeze. Hey, no, it feels solid. Oh man, there's a wrinkle here. I don't think the latex mold was like in the shell. Like one side is in the shell perfectly. Look at that. But bit of a wrinkle there. So I cut up the back and it tore a little bit. And over here on the side there's a bit of a tear too. But we'll see how it looks. Yeah, I put several layers on this and it's still like tore in some places, which is weird. So every time I take it off I gotta be very careful. Okay. So it's soft, but not like liquidy, squishy soft. Let me sit up in my chair. All the way up. There we go. So I gotta be very careful. I basically have to reach underneath very carefully as I pull it out. Because it's tearing after all of that. Which is why the muzzle mold is good, because it keeps it roughly in the shape it needs to be. Let's see. Did we get a good one? About a 50-50. It swelled at the nose, so I lost some of the detail on that. But yeah, it swelled a little bit weird. But overall, not a bad throwaway brain, you know. Worst comes to worst, I put on a stick and I use it as. I put on a stick. I spray some expandable foam here to get the bottom jaw and I use it as an understructure. Put the brain the right side in. Yeah, there it is. You have a tear here. And this top tear just keeps getting worse and worse. The actual back of it. Because I added extra layers on the back. With the idea that I was going to cut on the back and make a mold out of it. But man, I don't know how many more I can get out of this guy. I'm trying to get a few more of these castings out. A few more of these expandable foam castings done before I completely lose like the shape of this. Okay, that sits in there fine. Sits in there like that. Like that. Just like let it sit comfortable, you know? There we go. Bottom half. There we go. So we got a skull. Oh, as I reach over, then we got a slightly swollen brain. Still pretty good though. Alright, let's turn the music off. Reposition my camera. Alright. Not a bad stream. Ooh. We got some fantasy dice warriors on the go. We have the 3D printer. I did its thing. I'm going to cover it up now, keep the dust away from it. We have one extra brain. Now I have two extra brains. I have the one I showed you right now, another one I printed, and the one that's actually mounted to the spine mechanism. So that's really cool. Yeah, not a bad stream. Time in the afternoon was taken well. You know, yeah, that came out weird as hell. Time was used well this afternoon. God, that was a weird way to put it. Well, let me see. Just. Yeah, I was gonna say. Sabrina got a little knocked around a bit, right? Got knocked around a bit. First of all, Rico or Ryko, hello to you too. Thank you. You're joining us just at the end of the stream. Sorry about that. I could try. Here's the thing. If I fix the tears, it would be me painting it on the outside, fixing them. But that will then cause this mold, this muzzle mold, to not really fit properly because the muzzle mold is shaped to that latex. You know, it's the latex is perfect to the sculpture, and the muzzle mold is perfect to the latex, give or take. So I could try and fix it. It might cause a little problem, but I still have the original brain. I have the original sculpted brain that we did last Sunday. So I could actually just redo this whole process again. Maybe next time I won't use silicone. Maybe maybe next time I won't use latex. Maybe I will use a silicone. It's just a thicker, heavier material. It's just a bit of a pain to use because it paints and it drips. It's iffy. Oh, by the way, thank you for the little Dice Warriors. Yeah, the little D&D Dice Warriors. It's a concept for a much further down the line idea. I'm working on newer ideas at the moment that are more developed, but I figured I want to get these guys out of my mind, so there you go. And right now we're talking about doing these are latex molds with plaster muzzle molds, and then I use expandable foam, like from the hardware store, to do like little quick copies, like this little foam skull. So basically, I'm talking about a brain we created. Let me put this guy to the side for a minute. So once again, retreading. This is the first one that came out, and it's the best one that came out so far. It is a brain. It is lightweight foam. I've attached it to this cool mechanism for puppetry, which will hopefully, yep, it's a brain on a really cartoonishly long spine, just wiggling around, and that's what that project is. But yeah. So I could try and fix it, or I could do it from scratch. which is why I'm not gonna throw away. I'm not gonna dismantle the original sculpture just yet. I'm gonna see if I could get. I'm gonna see how many good brains I could get out of this before the whole thing falls apart. And that's that. Okay. Alright guys, thank you very much for jumping in. I'm not sure where people are watching me from. Let's see. One person. Okay, you're on YouTube. Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar, I stream these on Twitch. They're up for about a week or so, and then they're saved permanently on YouTube. So if you're watching it on YouTube later on, thank you for jumping in. You can also usually see some of the more. These aren't finished yet, but usually when I finish a picture, like when it's finished, I'll post it on one of my more social media art websites, such as Twitter, Instagram, or DeviantArt. That's usually where I put the finished stuff. So check out some of the images there of previous streams. And I want to say that's it for tonight. Once again, guys, I am Dante. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the future. Later.